This segment of the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast is supported in part by Douglas Outdoors, serious rods for serious anglers. Go to douglasoutdoors.com and check out their new lineup of Era rods that retail under $100. Norsk Lithium, the lithium battery that you need is just a click away. Go to norsklithium.com and check out some of the lightest lithium batteries in the market with the best warranty in the business. Mariner Sales, located in the heart of the DFW Metroplex, Mariner Sales has the largest inventory of kayak and kayak accessories in North Texas. You can also shop online at marinersales.com. What is going on, everyone? Welcome once again to the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast. As always, your boy Armando. To what we got today. Today, I got a buddy of mine brought me some beer from Mexico. It's called Indio. I'm going to try it for the first time. I don't know. The label doesn't give me confidence, but oh, man, it's not bad. Yeah, it does taste like a Mexican beer. So if you're doing Mexican lager beer, that's what it tastes like. Kind of refreshing, to be honest. Anyways, go check it out. Indio. I don't know where you will get this, though. Never seen it here in Texas, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere. All right. Anyways, today we're going to have a great episode. I got Roy. I forgot to ask him how to pronounce his last name, so I'm sure I'm going to screw it up. But Roy Widgeon, he'll let me know if I did it right or wrong. But he is the founder for USA Kayak Fishing Magazine. I've been meaning to get him on the podcast for a while now. So I'm finally got him on the podcast. We're going to be talking about his brand, USA Kayak Fishing. I think it's a great resource. If you are, whether you're new or old or an old head in kayak fishing, it's a great resource, great articles. The layout is the aesthetics of the articles of the magazine, and you get them online. It's pretty cool. I really like it. So I'm excited to have him on the podcast. So we're also going to be talking about, as kayak designs, where do we go from here? And being that Roy has kind of like a finger in the pulse of the kayak fishing industry, doing interviews and the magazine and kayak angler himself, I want to get his thoughts on where we're going with kayak fishing, because I see the kayak designs that are coming out now, and I'm not going to talk specifically about it now. We'll wait till Roy gets into the podcast. But I feel like we're going into a fork now in the road where there's going to be the kayak anglers, and then there's going to be a bridge between kayak fishing and bass boat glitter world. And I am in a way excited about, what's new, watching kayak fishing grow. But at the same time, at one point, we stop calling it kayak fishing and just call it plastic boat or small boat nation? It's just my thought. And also, what's going to happen with that smaller group of like kayak anglers? Where they're going to be left off? I mean, if there's no room for tournament, if this movement in design and technology goes so far that you really have no choice but to ditch the kayak and go into what is now called kayak fishing, but it's really small boat. Like, do you want to do that? Like, do you feel like you're selling out? Do you feel like, you're selling your soul because you're no longer doing really what kayak fishing started with? And as the leading manufacturers and designer of kayak fishing starts moving into more of building like a plastic boat, and they're going to focus on their resources on that, then that means less innovation in kayak fishing. So it's an interesting subject. I want to get your thoughts on it. Leave me on the comments. I can't print AXC 2185 here to support my homie Roy, sub buddy, and yeah. So put a comments, leave your comments, leave your questions in the comments section so we can get this rolling. So quick note: I just got back from Puerto Rico. I don't really record fishing content when I'm on vacation. I'm just on vacation. I don't want to deal with editing and all that. But I did get some footage from the guide that I hired in Puerto Rico. For those that don't know, I used to live in Puerto Rico. I go there, try to go there as much as I can to visit the family. And every time I go, I hire this guy called Tarpon Hombre. Great guide. If you're ever down in Puerto Rico, go check him out. I'm not being sponsored by him. I paid the full price like everybody else. I'm not even getting a discount when I do his kayak fishing. He won't even give it to me. But his name is Francisco. He's a great dude, nice guy. And you go fishing for tarpon and whatever you can find on salt water out of a paddle board. Like literally out of a paddle board, no motor, just a paddle, an ice chest that you're sitting on, and you are fishing for 25-pound tarpon, 40, even up to 80-pound tarpon. I didn't hook into 80-pound tarpon, just to be clear. But it is the ride of your life. It is the ultimate kayak paddleboard fishing experience. If you ever go down to Puerto Rico, hook him up. You can follow him on social media, on Instagram. His name is Tarpon Hombre, and he just does it for fun. Like the price is ridiculously dirt cheap, but he's very exclusive. Like he's very picky on who he takes. But if you go down there, go check it out. Hopefully, I'll get him on the podcast one time. He doesn't even want me to promote him. He has so many clients. But anyways, it was a great experience. He did take some videos on his phone, and I uploaded in my Instagram. So it was pretty fun. Also, I had a video. I just uploaded the video of my latest tournament on YouTube. That was an OHIV. I skunked for 7 hours, but I managed to figure it out and catch 5 bass in an hour and hit a limit and go from like last place, about 60 anglers, to 15th place. So it's a good video. I'm not great at editing. It's mostly narrated because I hate talking to a camera. So maybe you're not into that, but there are some things that you can learn from that video. So if you like it, go check it out. It's on my YouTube channel. It says, the thumbnail says 7 hours, no bites. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about it. So ideas. I'm always open to constructive criticism. So without further ado, let's bring Roy White in. Roy, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
How did I do with spelling your last name, or pronouncing your last name, I should say?
It's not bad. It's pronounced Widgeon, just like the duck.
Oh, there we go.
I called a Cabela's one time, and I tried to spell my name. He's like, "I know. I've shot a couple." I'm like,
well, hopefully not you.
Like, that's where Grandma went. Yeah,
that is funny. So, Roy, let's talk a little bit about you. For those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. How you got into fishing and kayak fishing.
So I first started fishing. I'm from the eastern shore of Virginia, which is the little pigtail that sticks off of Maryland's eastern shore. That's on the edge of the Chesapeake Bay and the the ocean there. So I did a lot of pond hopping. I worked on farms and love fishing. I got into kayak fishing sort of by accident. Just before COVID, I picked up a used kayak. And then I learned about weight limits really quickly on kayaks and worked my way through 4 or 5 and made my way up to right now I'm in a New Canoe Unlimited. So it's suited for myself. But I've fished my whole life. Anytime there was anything, and my father keeps telling me to say on a podcast that I used to practice my cast in a mud puddle, and which is absolutely true. It rained outside. Anytime I could get some water to about that deep to work a lure in, I would go outside and practice casting. So that's where I got my love for fishing, is the eastern shore and all of the farm ponds and big bass and easy catches.
Nice. Virginia remind me, like I'm gonna sound like an idiot in geography. You have coast in Virginia, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you ever did for a second there I forgot where Virginia was. But I was like, I know it's in the East Coast. You ever do like surf casting and all that? You got into that?
I've done a little bit from the beach for striper. There's a couple of cool places, and there's a nice bridge close by, the Lesnar Bridge. It's all glowing at night, so it's a great place to go and fish. But mostly I do mostly freshwater fishing myself. Saltwater, I like to go up in the channels and guts, not so much out near the bridge, because I'm a big guy. If I roll it over, I want to be close to land.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, thoughts and prayers. A fireman. I don't have the name. I read the article. Um, in Lavon Lake. Tragically. Well, I think I don't know. When I read the article, they hadn't found the body. So
Hmm.
worst case scenario, he drowned. He was kayak. I don't know if he was kayak fishing or just kayaking with his dog. They found the dog. The dog was okay, but obviously that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is human life. As much as we love our furry friends, um, so thoughts and prayers. I haven't. I don't know if they found, or hopefully they'll find him.
Right.
And he's still alive. But assuming that's worst case scenario, then thoughts and prayers to the family. I hope it turns out to be a good news. I'm sure something has been updated. I just haven't read the article so busy today. But just a reminder, everybody that's out there, just wear your PFDs.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
already had late grapevine. Somebody got hit. A kayaker got hit by a jet ski. Which I mean, that one doesn't matter if you were wearing a life jacket. Well, maybe it could have saved, but for the most part, it's. I mean, I understand that you don't have to wear. You just have to have it on your kayak, but just wear it.
Right. And even if I have a Mustang inflatable that I wear when I'm doing,
Yeah.
lakes. If I'm going out somewhere that's rough, I wear my like NRS style
Yeah.
because I don't want to have an issue with it not inflating in a situation where it's going to be like waves and boats and stuff like that. But I mean, they make such accessible items that it makes no sense to not wear a life jacket.
Yeah.
And if
I think.
anything, if for anything else, it should be for peace of mind for your family for a quick recovery. So even if it wasn't due to a drowning, let's say I had a heart attack, which is not out of the realm of possibility, and my family doesn't want to wait for 3 months for them to fish me off the bottom. So
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't know the details. Maybe the
right,
person was wearing a PFD. I don't want to assume.
right.
But either ways, we just hope it comes to a happy ending. And if
There are
not,
plenty of
thoughts and
people that
prayers.
don't.
Yeah. And I get it. You don't have to, like, I talking about that, not to promote any brand, but I'm the same way. When it's summer and it's hot, I just wear the Mustang because it comes to a point where I
Mhm.
used to have that. I have a fly fishing, which I love, um, life jacket, and it's
Mhm.
great for kayak fishing. But the problem is, I was wearing it the first time I bought it. I was not the first time, but the first year I bought it, I was wearing it on summer, and I almost had a heat stroke. I almost passed out. So that one thing that is like, okay, if I'm wearing this, that has so much insulation, it has those pads, then that's going to retain body heat. So it comes to a point where I'm not helping myself. So
Right.
I get what you're saying. I wear in summer, I'll wear a Mustang PFD inflatable, and then I mean the one that either I think on mine you have to pull the cable and it inflates. And hopefully I'll never have to do that.
Right.
But on winter, I'll wear the other one that's a little bit more bulky, and that keeps you a little bit warm.
It does most definitely. Yeah, that's Phil. Phil is a XE. So hey, Phil. Just so you know, I saw you
Still,
pop up your beer. I'm not a drinker, but my business partner, I gave this to him as a gift about 4 years ago, and he let me use it again. It's a Duff beer can.
oh yeah,
So I'm part of the crew, but not really.
ain't nothing wrong with that, man. So tell us about USA Kayak Fishing Magazine. You know what brought you to make something, because there's really only one magazine out there that I know of that's dedicated to kayak fishing. So there's room to grow.
Oh
What
yeah.
made you decide to go that route instead of making TikTok videos?
So to be honest with you, the magazine wasn't even on my radar. I was talking to a kayak company here on the East Coast, and I was speaking to the owner. And I own a photo studio, and we do virtual bridal shows from time to time where people from outside of our area can attend the bridal show because we have a lot of military community. And I was talking to them and said, "Wait a minute, what if we did a large scale digital expo?" And they were bought in, going crazy, liked it. I started calling people and trying to pitch the idea. And the problem was the people that had the foresight to get it couldn't afford it. And the people that could afford it couldn't grasp it mentally. So I was like, well, how am I going to educate people on what this is? So I said, I'll just start a magazine and I'll promote the expo. So I created the first issue. And while I'm still trying to promote the expo, the magazine's just bing, 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 ticking. And I thought to myself, well, do I want to chase the expo or go with what's working the magazine? Because the magazine ticks all the boxes for me. I get to talk to people like yourself. I get to write about what I love, fishing. If there's something close that I can go to, I get to go to the event and experience it, write about it, find new people, new content. And it's not limited to necessarily like some of the cover shots, which are paid professionals. Anybody can get on the cover. If I think you've got a cool story and I like what you do, there's always going to be hundreds of people out there who like what you do and want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let me actually share the screen on that. I apologize, got a little sidetracked because I was looking at the magazine online while you were talking. Because I want to share the screen right here. We were talking about it before we started recording or going live. I love the aesthetics of your magazine. So many times you see like I don't know what is it, the name where you want to like forums, right? Where you want questions and it's all pop-ups and all that. It's not, I mean, you're there to read the article, but it's not aesthetically pleasing. But on yours, looking at it, I mean, it's great design. Looks awesome. What is your background for you? Because I'm sure you're gonna have. I mean, you're the writer, you're the editor, you're the photo editor. I mean, how do you manage to fill so many hats and come up with such a great product?
Honestly, I don't know because I have extreme ADHD and somebody will mention something and I'll run off and start creating that as well. But I've been fortunate. The images that have been provided to me have been of high enough quality that some of them I don't need to touch and some of them I am easily able to edit. As I said before, I own a photo studio. So I have the ability to do quite a bit in Photoshop and Lightroom, and I can sometimes create things out of nothing. One of the early on things I had to do was, I think it's in the second issue, was the issue 2, which is the Kayak Bass Team Series. One of the guys didn't have his uniform shirt, so I took a picture of him, and it was 4 uniforms and 1 oddball. I basically put him in a shirt so he matched everybody. So it was just having the ability to do that. I try not to do a whole lot of mass editing, but if I have to, I have the ability to.
How much do you rely on? And I'm coming out of left field because we didn't even talk about this on the pre-recording. How much do you rely on? How much help is AI right now with trying to not write an article, but trying to, put everything together?
I use it for getting my day started. Like I put in the 10 things I have to do, and I use it like an office manager, and it gets me going through. And I use it for spell checking and getting stuff like that. But I use it for images sometimes. Like if I needed an image from you, I'll put in there what I want. It'll sometimes create it, and I'll send it to you and say, "Give me something close to this," and then you'll supply it like that.
Nice.
But
that's pretty. You also have a podcast, which I think it's really informative and entertaining. It's called the Kayak Cafe Podcast. What made you decide to add more to your plate?
She doesn't know it, but it's Christine Fisher. She was going to be on the cover, and she was transitioning between one tournament to the other. And the way that I do my articles is I send out a questionnaire, because I'll talk to you for an hour and a half and forget everything we talked about. So she said, just call me and record it. So I called her and recorded it, and we were talking, and she made mention that she was working at a place where she was in a situation. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I was sort of in the same situation. And it was like that click moment of like, we both have been in odd predicaments that we never would have known we had that similarity if we weren't talking. And I'm thinking, wait a minute now, I've got all these people's phone numbers. They're all in the magazine. Why not just have them on and chat with them? I mean, I talk to everyone as much as I can, sometimes to a fault when we're trying to go someplace. And my wife's like,
I know what you mean.
like, that's the parking attendant. What are you talking to him for? I'm like, he likes to fish.
That's funny. What has been the most, as far as doing the whole magazine and podcast, the whole brand, what's been the most enjoyable aspect?
If I had to pick my most enjoyable is the podcast, because I get the interaction. It is nice. As a photographer, the one thing that we do is we take pictures and we hand it to you and we wait for you to say something. You know, that's like, do you like it? Yeah. So when people say, I love the magazine, I love that feeling, but I also know that feeling comes a deadline for the next one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the podcast is, I know every Tuesday I'm going to be able to hop on there. I'm going to have people on, you know, I've got a schedule built out for it. I try to keep it flowing, sort of like you do for yours. And we just get in there and chat, you know, like even like tonight, we have sort of an area that we're going to go down, but if we go off on a left field, we see where that trail takes us.
Yeah.
So that I would say is my most enjoyable.
What it's been the most frustrating part about either the podcast or doing the magazine that you did not expect, that you're like, I didn't think this was going to be this hard, or I didn't think I was going to go with this, you know, hurdle.
So the most challenging thing for me was when I first started, I had the magazine hosted on Issue, and I was 3 or 4 issues in, and it went from $288 a year to $288 a month. So I had to take a moment and think to myself, well, what am I going to do here? Am I going to continue to be under the thumb of someone who can triple me next year when I get 15 or 20 issues? Or do I take 2 days and redesign my website and host it on my own website? And that's what I had to do. That I had to like take a moment, step back, build out the website so that every issue is now hosted on my site, migrate everything over, and then make sure it looked like it wasn't a homeowner's newsletter again. So the page you were just on was basically built out of necessity of not wanting to pay somebody a ton of money to do something that I thought was super simple.
Yeah.
So that was my challenge. And then, like we were talking earlier about email plans and the shock of the reality of that when you get larger numbers, how much it costs to send out emails, and then just another hat. You know, if you're doing the email marketing, you've got to keep that on a somewhat of a schedule, but then the schedule can rack up a lot of money, and it's just all of those little things.
Have you gained anything personal from, like, I know with the podcast, I actually posted on the video I did on OHIV. Like, I literally caught a limit on things that anglers have told me on the podcast that they've done in previous tournaments. Has anything jumped out at you that you either from an article that's posted, that's written by some of contributors, or something you heard on a podcast in your interviews that you're like, man, this changed the way I fish? This just kind of like took me to another level.
Yeah, I was on with Brandon Hua, and he was talking about what he does before a tournament, and he's like, I just spend time on Google Earth. And I was like, And he said, yeah, if you go on the PC on Google Earth, you can actually go back in time, and you can see the ebb and flow of waterways. And when it's on a low level, you can see all the structure. And then now if you go there and it's high, you know where everything's at. And I was like, blew my mind. I had no clue that was even possible. I mean, I know other people are probably like, yeah, I knew that, you know, but for me,
that's recent though. I think Fishing the Moment was one of the first ones to kind of highlight that.
Yeah. Well, I was just, you know, I'm out in left field looking at like, dang, that's amazing, you know, or, you know, just the people I've met, like 4-7 Lures comes on and they've got some weird off the wall designs, and just those moments getting to chat with people. Cause I like to find out where, so like your first question, where are you from? Who are you? I like to see what's behind
Yeah.
Boom. Like for yourself, I want to know like where you grew up, what you did, what got you in the mindset, those types of things. Getting to ask the questions that aren't normally asked.
Yeah. And one of the things, and I'm sure you agree with me on this, it's just what Philip just said, is commenting. Acts
Mm-hmm.
21:685. I posted, I highlighted so for those that are listening to the podcast when I upload it. Philip just mentioned, I appreciate you talking about Roy. I reinvented myself from 15-time champion snare drummer, not sure what that is, to a herniated disc in my lower back to reinvent my competition flame into tournament here in Ohio. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want to highlight. It's you have the opportunity, and I'm sure people like Fluke Master, Gene Jensen, Christian
Mm-hmm.
Fisher, all those content creators that do something organic as what you're doing. When you help out somebody, I remember the first podcast, not the first podcast that I did, but the
Mm-hmm.
first podcast that centered around somebody going through depression,
Mm-hmm.
and how kayak fishing helped them. And
Right.
then I had a couple of podcasts of um, retired armed forces veterans that had suffered from PTSD.
Oh
One of my
yes.
favorite one was Frank Twiggy Reed, which, when he was talking about his jump, paratrooper, jump out of the plane to a war zone, get your
Mm-hmm.
target and find a way to get back. We picked you up. And to like, now from that, I had to go to a civilian, and
Yeah.
then being a drug addict, living underneath a bridge, to kind of like coming back to, reintegrating to a normal life, and how kayak fishing helped them.
Yes.
Those stories have a ripple effect on listeners. And I think that's every now and then I get a reminder by
Mm-hmm.
somebody that messaged me, is like, thank you for that episode. And I think that is the most gratifying thing. It really is what keeps you going. I'm sure, like Philip just mentioned, that I'm sure that he's not the only one that's reached out to you.
Oh
How
yes.
do you feel about that?
I really enjoy it. I've had a couple of I've had three people on from the Heroes on the Water. I like to volunteer for the Tidewater chapter here in Virginia. I had Steve and Patrick on there, the head guys for the Tidewater chapter, and they told their stories, and it's um, very eye opening from what people have gone through. And then um, had some others on from Heroes on the Water. I'm fortunate that I was able to become a media partner for Heroes on the Water, the national, um, not national chapter, but Heroes on the Water National. So
Mhm.
every single issue of my magazine, I try to focus on one of their heroes. So there's an article in every single issue that they've provided me about their organization. So I think that giving back and listening to them, yeah, I know that's where it's a good feeling moment.
Yeah. You take that with you. I remember when I started with well, I started by myself, then I moved to paddle and fin. And the first time that I had that, founder of paddle and fin was Brian Schiller, and he
Hmm.
told me, wear that, wear that as, as on your chest, like be proud of that, because
Hmm.
that's more important than any sponsorship, anything that
Right.
you be able to accomplish monetizing or even winning a tournament.
Yes. And there's probably so many that you don't even know about. It's just
Yeah,
you just hit them across because if you look at the numbers of what you do, there's so many people out there who watch and you don't even know what's gonna resonate with someone.
yeah, it's very gratifying, and it's something you take with you, and
Hmm.
you never take that for granted. So thank you for doing that work, man. It's like I said, I'm sure along with Phil, there's a lot of people that feel the same way about it. How much has kayak, your magazine or your brand, including the podcast, has grown? Like, is it what you expected? Is it
Um,
bigger based on when you started and where you are? Like, are you happy with the progress that you made?
yes, I'm extremely happy with the progress. I would love to have more people advertise in the magazine. Of course, we all want more sponsors.
Yeah.
Just because if I have more people filling the spaces, then I could do what I want to do, which is expand to a monthly release and then actually hire people on for production and creation of the magazine. Because I'd love to have someone build it, and I'd love to pay people to provide content. And then I can focus my time on going out and maybe creating other forms of content like fishing or even just relaxing a little bit. But
Real quickly,
mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and the podcast was a crazy, I would say it's a crazy success in my opinion. It just sort of went from a little bit of nothing to, I think we just for the year broke 100,000 views with almost 2,000 watch hours. So, I mean, I think that's pretty decent.
Yeah, that's very good. It's actually very good. Well, I want to ask you one quick question before we talk about the changes in kayak design and the future of kayak fishing, because I think this is important. You mentioned you want people to contribute more. How can somebody like contribute to an article or help out in USA Kayak Fishing Magazine?
So on the main page of USA Kayak Fishing Magazine, down at the bottom, there is a article submission and an angler spotlight. So if you want to submit an article, so let's say you won a tournament, or let's say you even just rolled your kayak for the first time, anything. Like if you want to write about it, at the very bottom, it should be article submission and angler spotlight. So yeah, if you click those, it'll take you to the ability to send an email. And from there you would just come through to me. I would reach out to you and we would just put something together. So either in some cases, people, they want to tell their story, but they don't want to write it. So that's when I would send out a form and say, fill out this form, give me all the pertinent information about what happened. I'll put something together. I'll send it to you, see if it meets, snuff with you. And then we'll go from there. The only thing that I recommend or I request is images. So if you have a article about rolling your kayak, I'd love to see a couple pictures of you when you were wet. You don't have to be like in the throes of whatever, but just you with the kayak, even fishing, and just something to support the story. And then from there, I can pretty much make almost anything work.
That's awesome. You know what? Next time I go to Puerto Rico, I'm gonna do another tarpon fishing out of paddleboard. I'm gonna take pictures and I'm gonna write about it. And then
I would love that because I wrote down tarpon hombre.
Yeah, you can.
Francisco.
He does. It's funny because I tell him like there is a kayak fishing magazine up in Puerto Rico, and they reach out to him, and he's like, I don't want to promote it. I have enough clients. The thing is, he has clients that come every year. Like I've repeated clients. It's like I don't want to go viral. I got enough on my plate, and I will tell him, hey, I'll promote you and give discounts. Like, nope. I already got enough clients, man. He does appreciate when I tag him. But it's funny dude. But I'm sure there's good articles. I know you had Dustin Nichols on. Dustin Nichols was one of the first one who taught me about, would ask him like, hey, how do you help, promote yourself? It's like he would reach out to Kayak Angler Magazine and write an article of it. And then he says, if you write an article, they'll let you do like promote your brand.
Dustin actually left one of his snacks. He's a Marine. We own a photo studio, and one of the ways we break the ice when people come in for military headshots, if they're Marines, I have two of those. I put them in a little basket. And I'm like, you get hungry, help yourself. It's all in good fun, and so far everyone's taken it as good fun.
That's cool. All right, so let's jump into the subject that I wanted to talk about, and I'll start off kind of with an intro about what I kind of mentioned in the intro, I should say. I see the changes in kayak design. And granted, I think for a few years now, we've kind of like gone way past what a kayak is. And, when you think about kayaks, I mean, this is something, I did a little research on when kayak started. And this is something that was like Scandinavia, I think somewhere can't remember what it was, Sweden or something like that. That's where the kayak was invented. And this were people that were like, hunting whales or seals on this platform that was called a kayak, wasn't a canoe. from that to where we are now, whether it's a pedal drive, whether it's adding a pedal drive, out adding a rudder, adding a motor, I feel like we're way past being kayak fishermen. But for whatever
Hmm.
reason, we still call it kayak fishing. Now we do see, I've seen lately, and I want to be very, very clear on this. I am not by any way criticizing Hans Newts, who's a great designer for Bonafide.
Hmm.
Amazing job. Like he has reinvented that brand. He's done an amazing job. The RVR 11
Hmm.
or 112, I think, or 112, I can't
120.
remember what it is. Um, the Power 119. I mean, those are kayaks,
Yeah.
and they're amazing. But now with the Bonafide, I can't help to think like that's really not a kayak. That's more of a John board, plastic John board. You can say the same thing about the Tactical Pro. You can go back and talk about the Old Town Sportsman, which really is, there's a motor integrated on this kayak.
Hmm.
And my worry with this is, where do we go from here? When you get this traditional, when you think about Old Town, this is one of the first companies in the United States that started building canoes.
Hmm.
And I mean, they still build canoes, but that's not their bread and butter. That's, then they moved into kayaks, and now the sportsmans, the EPDLs, there's more like motorized boats. So when you take like probably one of the most significant and most historic 100% US brand built from the ground up in the United States, and it's no longer really doing kayaks. It's doing more of a plastic boat. That's kind of scary. Now, honestly, and I know I'm going on a tangent here, and I want to give you
You're good.
time to comment, but I love those designs,
Hmm.
but I can't help but think about the anglers that are fishing out of kayaks. Where do they go? Are they not going to have a home? Are they not going to have a company now that's going to build them a good quality kayak for them to paddle and fish, mostly rivers? What are your thoughts on that?
So it's a lot to cover there.
I know. I'm
So
letting
I
you
would
play.
say I would start from the back down. So like if I were really looking for a good paddling kayak, I think Crescent makes a really really good paddling kayak, and they've got the river mindset in
Yeah,
their in
Drew
their
Gregory's DNA.
yeah, in their DNA. It's there. So I don't think it's ever going to go away. I just think that basically um, we're starting to be a lot like a cheesecake factory. There's a large menu. There's a lot of things
It's a
out
good
there.
analogy.
Boom. It's like, okay, well, on this end, you've got the open canoe, and on this end, you have the XTR, you have the 128. And for the longest time, the New Canoe Unlimited was the big girl on the block. I mean, it was
Mm.
a 600-pound weight limit and all of the ability to do whatever you wanted. Like, it was deemed to be the boat that could hold it all. So I think that it's going to continue to grow, and I think they're still going to be under the moniker of kayak until it just gets so egregious that people are just like, okay, no, you're done. Someone's going to keep pushing that envelope till it reaches flat hull transom. Like, it's going to be open design with wooden planks. Like, no, you're done. Too far. You've reached that area. It's almost like with any rule the ATF puts out. There's somebody who's like, okay, here's where that line is. I'm going to keep my toe on that line and a little bit above. So I think that people are just going to keep pushing the issue, making them bigger, making them hold more. Um, and to be honest with you, with the amount of batteries you need for a long run on a tournament, the amount of gear that people want to carry with them for a tournament, the heavier the weight limit you can take. Even someone like Drew Gregory, who weighs a little bit of nothing, if he can hold 900 pounds and take all his gear, he may take more things with him.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I don't think it's going to ever um, go away. Like these big boats are here, and to be honest with you, there are a lot of paddlers who are like myself. I'm a big dude. I'm not gonna put a number on it because I want to cry on the way home. But there were very few options for people like myself. And actually, the company I was talking earlier about that I was talking to for the expo, they make a kayak that holds 500 pounds, a 500-pound paddler. And I said, why do you not show a large paddler in your advertising?
Mhm.
There's, as far as I can remember, I've never seen any ad on TV where there was a full-figured individual in a kayak. It's always been someone super small, or like the Christine Fishers, God
I
bless
was
her,
just about to say, yeah.
where there's not 1 inch that's off limits to her on that kayak. Like if she wants to stand on the front handle, she could do it.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I would step on that hatch and go right in. So, yeah, I think that they're reaching a really cool area with the big boats, that they're making people who are smaller carry a lot more gear, and they're making people that are bigger feel so secure on the water that now they can actually go fishing without worrying about it.
It's interesting. A lot of the kayak manufacturing is driven by the tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about somebody that's spending $5,000 on a Old Town Sportsman, or a XTR with the motors, or a Hobie PA 360.
Mm-hmm.
Usually those people, like if you're spending that much, a lot of those people are fishing tournaments, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
really, if you're not, otherwise you can get a little jumbo for a
Right.
fraction of the price, and you can accomplish the same things if you're only going out there to have fun. Um, and it's interesting how much weight I think holds on, for example, Steve Owens.
Mm-hmm.
Like Steve Owens is literally the only line of defense against the progress that may get, whether it's fair or not for him. He's the one who decides what is going to go into, what is going to be allowed into the biggest tournament that we have right now, that it's probably going to continue to grow as people, especially with gas prices and the economy and all that, boats are getting more expensive. People still want to get out there and fish, and they look at the kayak as like, okay, it's a good alternative. You see that
Mm-hmm.
growing and growing. So many people that are now in kayak fishing were previous boat owners who are just tired of the maintenance, the gas, the
Mm-hmm.
trailers, everything that goes along with it, that's not related to actually catching fish. So when I think about that, it's like, there's gonna be pushing that boundary. Now, right now, there's pressure on allowing dual motors
Mm-hmm.
on the kayaks for tournaments, and to this point, Steve has said no. But Steve's not always not going to be there, and I'm not criticizing Steve. I
Right.
applaud him for what he's doing. He really is, like, I think about it, it's like, man, he is the last line of defense here. Like whatever he allows, that's going to help out manufacturers say, okay, we're going to double down on this design, or on adding two motors, or on stuff like that. And when we think about that, the when we start, okay, well, now you have to have dual motors, right? Or
Right.
not right now, but in the future, if that goes through, you need a more stable platform. You need a higher power motor. You need you're gonna need to have two batteries for two motors, and your graph
Mm-hmm.
comes to a point where the grassroots guy that just has a kayak, Crescent Shoaley, on RVR 112 is like, where do I go? Like, there's no way I can compete with this.
Right.
Where do I go with this? And because right now there's not a lot, unless you're going to stay, like maybe them. I'm sure that some places there's like a regional trail that's like, hey, paddles only, or no motors, or we're going into rivers. But I just wonder what's going to happen.
Right. And with the dual motors, I see that falling under the whole pushing the limits.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, when I hear dual motors, I have a NK 180 Pro on the back to get me there, and then on the front, I've got my my GPS spot lock for fishing. That way you can get there faster, but you have more control once you get there.
Yeah.
But then the person who's like, okay, I can run dual NK 300s on the back and I'm up on a plane, that's the person that's the person who pushes it the past the line. You're going too fast for the vessel. So, but yeah, I mean, like you were saying, also with the price of the boat, and people may not get, let's say, an XTR fully decked out if they're not doing tournaments. Well, I've seen a lot of sparkly bass boats on the water that people aren't in tournaments.
Yeah.
They're rolling out on the weekend in their Skeeter with their sparkles trying to catch a crappie. Like, that's a lot of money to go catch. So I feel like there are going to be a lot of those bigger boats being sold, and I think it will eventually go to 2 motors, but with restrictions. Like I said, one for getting there and then one for going. But then again, you can't regulate that. Who's going to watch them? You got to have the checks and balances of. You'd almost have to have something like a kill switch put in that could be checked before every single tournament.
Yeah.
They both won't work when they're down. One has to be up to turn the other one on. That type of situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's also, now you're getting into NASCAR pit crew
restricted
checking
plates and all that.
He's got a wedge in the back. Yeah.
When you think about the landscape of kayak fishing, the technology, there's anything out there, being somebody that's full on into kayak fishing with, the magazine, the podcast, and the kayak angler yourself, is there anything that worries you about the overall growth?
The only thing that worries me is if things get so elevated and, like you're saying, the lower paddlers aren't being appreciated anymore. Like, they're still welcome, they're there, but they're not being catered to. Someone who's getting into the industry or getting into the sport might feel left out, might not feel included like we once were. Like, if you roll up to a dock, everyone says hi to everyone. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
But if you roll up to the dock, you may have that inferiority complex when you pull out the sit-in kayak, and then the XTR with the power pole move on the front pulls up, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, he's got more than I've got in the car I drove here in. So that's the only thing I can see, is someone feeling like it's unattainable, it's unrealistic, it's not fun unless I have all of the best of the best, and then you have to justify that to family while you need to spend 20 grand on a fishing kayak.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing for me, especially when talk about tournaments. It's at some point it's going to be, one of the things when I think about tournament fishing, and there's always that somebody unknown that's sneaks into the top 10 or wins a tournament. But for the most part, it seems like it's always the same names over and over and over again, which is great. That's great when you have a sport that is you're monetized by like a pro sport like NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, soccer. It's the money comes from viewership, right? That's not going to happen that's just got started in bass fishing, where now tournament anglers in the Bassmaster League don't have to pay because the money is coming from viewership. I don't know if that ever is going to happen in kayak fishing. I always said kayak fishing seems to be more interested in, because you can reach places where bass boats can, and there's that nature element. But whether it ever gets monetized or not, we've seen curling get monetized for viewership. So you never know. But when I think about that and the growth of it, it's like, where does, like I mentioned, where do we go if now the the revenue that's gonna be shared, it's gonna be based on tournament fees and maybe a couple of companies that's promoting kind of like what Kayak Venture Series is doing with Drew Gregory. So there's different aspects of it, and when you think about that, it's like, well, there's a lot of, like, I think, uncertainty when it comes to it, and it seems like there's going to be a point where like you mentioned, the little guy gets priced out and he's not going to be able to enjoy it.
Right.
At least tournament fishing, like national trails, get that chance to be on the red carpet in the top 10 on a Bassmaster Elite, not Elite, Bassmaster Kayak Fishing Championship, which is like, I think, what most tournament anglers dream of, right?
Yeah, I think the coolest thing that I've seen, and it was kind of done with the Kayak Bass Team Series, is the new team series with it was just on my show, Musgrove and Fluke Master. Their series, I think that's gonna. I like the idea of bringing people together like that. Like it seems like in my opinion, one of the best formats out there because you get to interact with your buddy. You get to interact with people and have fun. That's what a lot of us got into fishing for. It was fun with other people in the community, and that's one thing I do not want to see go away. And I can see it on the corporate end because everything went from mom and pop to now it's going through like 16 levels of chain of command to talk to the janitor. So before you could just call and talk to just regular old Joe Schmo and you guys hashed it out, handshake, high five, you're good to go. Not anymore. So, but I'll tell you what, I see something coming, and I mentioned this on another podcast with a gentleman, and with Photoshop, I can type in, like I want to see a man staring at me through a camera with a podcast mic in front of him with a blurred background, and it'll generate it.
Mm.
So with AI, I can take forward-facing sonar and know that, okay, what I'm looking at is a bass next to a tree. Put that into the AI, and it could basically take that and turn it into a bass next to a tree. Like you see a literal bass next to a tree. So if it can do that, if you could do it lifetime, so that the feed for the forward-facing sonar is going into AI is now translating that into an image. You could wear Google glasses or a thing and be looking at no water, just structure and fish. I see that as a possibility in the coming future.
No, that is crazy, but that is true. That's where we are. I remember John B. From the Goon Squad did that fish with
the goggles.
With the goggles. I thought it was I can't see myself doing that. It's funny. I mentioned it on, I think, the last time I did the podcast, but fishing that tournament OHIV, I saw 5 boarders like anywhere from 100 to 500 yards from me, just yo-yoing and looking at a screen. And meanwhile, I'm in the bank catching 5 fish in an hour. Not saying I'm better than them. I'm sure they're great anglers, but it's just that style of fishing that I feel like, man, I don't ever want to be that person. No, I'm not criticizing, I'm not judging, but I didn't come here to stare at a screen and yo-yo a bait.
Right.
It's not what I got in for. I want the surprise of what's coming. Now, again, great technology, and at some point maybe I'll use it, but to be like for hours just staring at a screen I don't get it. But it's again,
I like the
style.
Hummingbird 360. The Mega 360 is always
that's pretty cool
to me. I love that. I don't have that yet, if anybody's listening, but that's always been what I consider to be enough. It shows you everything you need to see. You don't need to have all of the cool stuff. How's it going, Cameron? Yeah. So,
hey, dude. So let me ask you real quick. Your thoughts on forward-facing sonar kayak fishing? Good thing or bad thing, or should be banned, or should we keep using it?
To be honest with you, I don't think there's a lot of people out there. I don't say a lot of people. I think there are a lot of people who don't like it because they don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's a lot like that expo. That expo, I mean, I spent a lot of time putting a lot of work into it to know it would work, but convincing other people that they should try it was a pain in the butt. If they experienced it, they would have potentially loved it, but they wouldn't even try it, And I feel like that's exactly like the forward-facing sonar. If someone's going out there on a weekend with their grandkids and they want to, put them on some crappie, they can pinpoint them and have the kids catching all day. They have the most memorable moment of their life you know. And if somebody wants to be the guy who just like pegs his face on the screen and hunts a fish all day, that's on him too, you know.
Yeah, I
'Cause
agree.
I've heard a lot of people, even myself. I have forward-facing sonar, and I spent my first 2 fishing trips with it trying to learn it, and I thought to myself, "Hold up, I'm no better now than when I
Yeah,
started, and I'm wasting my time trying to figure it out, as opposed to just casting." Like, I was so proud. I was looking at the screen, not around me, and I'm like, "Oh, there's a tree stump." Yeah, I looked up, and there's a tree sticking out of the water, and I'm thinking, "You know what? I could have just looked over there
save
and
myself a
known."
couple of $1,000.
Yeah. So I ended up letting it go, and it was to somebody who did tournaments, and it's going to serve them a lot better than me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool for the little bit I used it, but
Yeah, I think, in a personal level, like somebody that's, family fishing crappie, or somebody that's,
mm,
fishing and cooking, that's feeding themselves, their family. Yeah, I mean, go
or
for it.
even
I mean,
charters.
yeah, go for it. Use it. In tournaments, a different conversation.
Yeah.
And I get that. I see the both pros and cons. I think right now, I've mentioned this before, there's so many, not a lot of anglers use it. And most of the ones they're using are still learning it, that they kind of cancel themselves out of a check because they spend so much time trying to figure it out. Well, it's like,
Hmm.
you're a good angler. You could have caught 5 fish by now if you stopped staring
Right.
at that screen.
But also,
Um,
there's also technology on marlin charter boats
yeah,
that will ping out, find a marlin, and it will lock onto them and will track that fish. So now you can go to it, but you don't have to keep hunting for it. It stays hooked to it. So that technology could work its way down to
yeah,
forward facing sonar where, okay, there's a 5 pound plus, bink, lock onto it. And because the hard thing now is it's like I have to keep moving to find it. Well, if that
yeah.
locks onto it, now your focus is I'm fishing wherever that arrow is pointing. I know that fish is that way. So that's a possibility as well. There's so much technology beyond what we do that could come down. That's just an amazing opportunity for those that are intrigued by technology and advancement, and scary to those who don't want change.
It's interesting, and I see both sides of it. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna judge either side. I think the technology of it is very intriguing.
Hmm.
And I'm also the guy that goes out fishing because I don't want to use technology, because I
Hmm.
want to get away from technology. The whole thing's like, when I started kayak bass fishing, it wasn't even to compete on tournaments. Just like, turn my phone off, just go have fun, and forget about, the cell phones, the emails, the spams,
Hmm.
the spam calls. So there's I get both sides of it. Like, you want to go out there to enjoy nature, you bring an element of technology, it's going to take 100% of your attention. Then, to each his own.
Yes.
Like, I guess at the end of the day, that's the conversation. To each his own. I'm not going to judge one or the other. It's would you get what you put into it. If you're there, if you want to catch fish and learn how to catch fish, you want to see how fish react to it, it's a great tool. And if you just want to get out and just have fun and enjoy nature, then don't do it.
It'd be interesting if they did a trail where you could use whatever you wanted in the trail, but at least one of the events you have to go back to your roots of paddling, no electronics. That'd be kind of weird. You
Yeah,
know, just like,
there
hey.
there's a tournament in Louisiana, or not a tournament, a club
Hmm.
that's kind of like that. They do some crazy stuff, and I think it's super interesting. If I lived closer to where that club is, I would totally do it, because it's like, one day you're gonna fish saltwater, on one day you're gonna target bass, one day you're gonna target some other fish, one day you're gonna show up with no baits. They'll have the baits for you, and everybody
Mm.
fishes the same baits, and you can only use the baits that they gave you. And they'll check your kayak before you can go in the water, make sure you don't have any other baits.
Hmm.
I I've heard, I had somebody from that club on the podcast years ago, and I thought, like, man, that is awesome. I love that idea. It's like, that really tests you as a fisherman.
Keeps it fresh too. Like it's
Yeah,
always something new.
yeah,
I mean, uh, I could definitely see getting burnt out every single week. It's the same thing.
yeah.
It's like new. I mean, it's different locations, but it's still the same grind of find them, catch them, next spot. Find them, catch them, next spot. No spice to it. You know.
It's so different. Even fishing. I remember going to Alaska and last year around the same time, around this same week last year, and fishing for salmon, and it's literally the Randy. What is it? Not Randy Black. What was the guy that got banned that used to be in Bassmaster magazine for catching big bass, and turns out he was snagging them. Forgot his name. It's not Randy Blockett. Randy Blockett is the other guy that hates social for fishing sonar. Forgot his name. But anyways, if anybody in the comment section wants to post it in the comment, I completely forgot his name. But I was salmon fishing, and they do what they call flossing, which is literally snagging the fish. Like you are throwing a line with a hook and no bait, and you just literally feel it, and you impale them with a hook. And that to me was like, this is like, it felt so unnatural. It's like, this will get me banned out of bass fishing. Like, this will get me canceled in bass fishing. But when you do that salmon run, that's the only way you're going to catch them. It's not eating.
Right.
So it's interesting.
Or I've seen some of them, they sit on the side of the rocks with a net in the water, just talking. Ooh, one went in the net, and they throw it up, like they're just sitting there with a dip net, like a big giant dip net.
That's crazy.
So
I've never seen that.
I guess if you're there for just food,
yeah, that's different.
It's they do a lot of things in Alaska that aren't necessarily what we would consider on par with acceptability.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's so funny because bass fishing, when you think about it, I remember Steve Rinella he does the hunting shows, but he's also done the fishing shows, and he did one was hunting and fishing, but he went fishing into the Amazon somewhere. I think it wasn't in Brazil, but somewhere in the Amazon, in one of the other countries, Colombia, Venezuela, I can't remember. But the way they fish is like, we fish the easiest way, and then we go back to the States, and it's like, what's the hardest fish to catch? Bass. All right, let's try to catch that one, with the sole purpose of releasing them.
Yes.
And then instead of using a live bait or live worm, which would be by far the easiest way to catch it, no, we're gonna spend tons of money on a artificial lure that's gonna be 100 times harder to catch it, 100 times more expensive, and that's how we measure ourselves as fishermen. It makes no sense.
Yeah,
but that's the way we wired ourselves for whatever reason.
One of the cool things I like to ask on the whole fishing and lure front of is, when you were younger, is there a bait that you use that was your confidence bait, and do you still fish it today?
I started late fishing for bass, so I don't have one.
Yeah, so for myself, it was like the Pop-R was the top one, was my go-to. I never throw it. I'm always fluke, Cinco, or something like that. They're my go-to buzz bait, spinner bait. And then I get back to the car. I'm like, maybe I should have thrown that popper. Every single time, I never chunk it. Yeah. And it used to be always the first thing I would throw. Of course, it was in a farm pond. There were a lot more fish, but I love that top water bite on that thing. It was amazing. But I never threw it.
I remember the popper. It's funny because on the video that I just posted about OHIV, one of the cool things about the first 8 minutes of the video is just conversations at the launch site. It's me, Peter, who's from My Chaotic Fishing. There's Michael Cates, one of the best anglers in Texas, probably in the nation. And we're just having fun. And I told Michael, I'm talking to you, but I'm really just curious what you got tied on. And he had some old school, in the video, see me ask him, what is that? I've never like that. I saw that at a vintage store once. What are you throwing? And sure enough, he came in second place on that tournament, which is a struggle for him because he usually ends up in first place. But he's still throwing those old school torpedoes or Hideons, jitterbugs that nobody else throws right now.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of like bell bottoms. They were cool. They were not cool. Now they're kind of back cool. Yeah. Like it's full circle.
Wow. We went back. Bell bottom reference on the podcast. That's awesome. That's the first one. Roy, I've had you for an hour, and I know you're in the East Coast, so it's a little bit later for you.
It's been
Where
awesome.
can once again plug is in for where can people follow you on social media? Where can
Mhm.
people read the articles and enjoy, make the most out of the USA Kayak Fishing Magazine?
So if you go to usakfm.com, that's where the magazine is hosted. You can actually subscribe to it. So I'll send you a link directly to your email. I try not to send a ton of emails, but I'll send them at the launch of the uh, issue, which is every other month. So the next issue comes out next month. Um, and then from there, if they want to go to Instagram or YouTube, YouTube is where the podcast is hosted, just at USA Kayak Fishing Magazine. I'm at USA Kayak Fishing Magazine on all platforms, so you could find me. We also have a Facebook group as well. We've got close to 4,000 members and growing. I try to keep it pretty light and lively in there, so mostly stuff like this. I'll put the link in there, which I did, and I think I picked up some viewers that came in from it. And then on TikTok, I've got a video of a fat man getting in a kayak with 96,000 views. Boom! Yeah, everybody wants to see the big guy flip it, but I did. Yeah. So
That's funny. Yeah, you show it says show a little ass, and then you get some likes. So
oh
there you
yeah.
go.
What do they say? You want to get views? Hook yourself or flip your kayak. Yeah.
That's funny. It's in social media is such an interesting place. I got a check not that long ago for like almost $400. And my wife was the one who told me, she's like, what do you get a check deposited from Facebook? I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like there's a check deposited from Facebook, virtual check on our account. It says Facebook, it's $400. I'm like, I have no idea. So I started research on it. Turns out I posted a video of me running into a shallow sandbar. And it was funny. But what made it viral was somebody decided to throw an insult on the comments, which happens every now and then. But then somebody else, there's a troller trying to troll me, and saying trolling things. And then another troller goes in to reply and trolls him for misspelling a word. And that started an alphabet war that went 200 comments deep, and other people started chiming in. So at one point, it wasn't even about the video. It was about this back and forth between a group of people all trolling. And here I am collecting a $400 check in a week. I'm like,
yep, a little
it's
back alley
crazy
brawl.
how social media, and it's scary how it feeds off of negativity.
Yeah. I had a video on TikTok. I eating a piece of watermelon. It was 1.8 million views. And I was like, I've made it. Oh yeah. Next day I woke up, next video, 2,000 views. I'm like,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, you'll put a great, edited video with slow-mo and hooking into a 8-pound bass, 0.
Yep. Just something.
Post a stupid video of you doing something, and it goes viral.
My latest viral, if you will, it's like 50,000, but it's me sitting in the kayak in the middle of stumps. And I said, I've always dreamed of fishing stumps like these, but here I am in a minefield of stumps and couldn't catch a cold. It was like what the 360 camera was recording the whole time. And I just was like one of those true from the heart moments. I was like, I can't catch anything here. There's these beautiful stumps. And you know what I didn't throw? My popper.
There you go. Well, Roy, thank you so much for joining the podcast. It's been a pleasure
you.
having you on the podcast. Hope we can do it again sometime.
Heck yeah.
We'll pick another subject. But looking forward to your next article. Looking forward to what you're doing. Like we had in the comment with Phil, aside from the growth, the monetization, everything, there are Phils out there that feed off of what you're doing and helps them in their daily life and helps them enjoy kayak fishing. And that's the most important thing. So congratulations on that, man. We want to hear more about those stories. I'm sure that's what we want to head our hands on, on making the world a better place and the community a better place. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. And you as well. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And it was a great conversation. That hour flew by.
I know. I appreciate it. And so for those out there watching, listening, if you Don't follow us. You can follow us on social media, Bass Kayak and Beers, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Check out the latest episodes on YouTube. We do have a podcast every Wednesday with Kurt Smith and or Dan Perry, which talks to other anglers about specific baits and techniques. It's more of an educational podcast that airs. We try to air every Wednesday, and also we have the live show every Thursday on YouTube and Facebook, where it's more about having conversations with great content creators like Roy or sometimes tournament anglers. So thank you for watching, supporting. Remember, if you're going to be on the water, please, for the love of God, wear your PFDs. And take care, everyone. Stay safe. And